Hello, my fellow film lovers. My name is Stacia, and I have finally made it to the seventh movie in the Friday the 13th saga. Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. This movie came out in 1988. They took a year-ish, year and a half between the sixth movie in the series and this movie because Jason Lives was the first Friday the 13th movie to make under $20 million at the box office. So there was some regrouping to be done, and bonus, they were trying to negotiate a deal to have Jason versus Freddy. So Paramount was negotiating with New Line Cinemas to try to bring that to fruition even in the 80s, and it just didn't happen at that point. What we have here is kind of Jason versus Stephen King, or Jason versus Carrie, or Jason versus Firestarter kind of a storyline instead of Jason versus Freddy. At this point is when I really think for Friday the 13th movies, they really jumped the shark here. These last two movies I'm going to focus on, number 7 and number 8, you can really tell the decline of the Friday the 13th franchise. This movie still comes in at a tight 1 hour and 28 minutes, which I would say any Jason movie over an hour and a half is not worth it. So what do I mean by this is like a Jason versus a Stephen King, a Jason versus Carrie moment for us? So in this, we do have a new final girl, Tina, and actually unlike the previous 3 movies, you ditch the Tommy character, you ditch any character before, and it's a reason why it's called The New Blood is because of the ditching of previous storylines where you had Tommy fighting. So this is a whole new story for Jason, a whole new group of teenagers for Jason to murder. So Tina Shepard is our new girl, and what makes Tina unique is she has telekinesis just like Carrie. She can start fires and make things happen just like Firestarter. And the timeline of this movie as it fits in to the other movies is kind of messed up as well. These last 2 movies, the timeline kind of is all over the place because Tina had an incident when she was younger, and it was fueled by Jason being chained in the lake also, and it deals with her accidentally killing her father as well, and then she tries to conjure up her father again, and it disrupts Jason in the lake, bringing him back to life. But also, the incident that happened is when she was younger, so it's like 10 years after the events of the last movie where Jason was chained to the bottom of the lake, but yet it just doesn't work. Don't think about the timeline too much in these last 2 movies because it'll make your head explode. Also have a new director in this movie, John Buechler. I don't know how to say his last name. And I guess he does okay. I'm not really into the 7th one, although I did see this in the movie theater when I was growing up as a teenager. I saw lots of movies in the movie theater. It stars as the final girl of Tina Shepard, Lar Park-Lincoln, who was a recognizable face during the time. I think she still acts and everything, but she was in like Knots Landing and stuff like that during that time. She showed up in a lot of the magazines of that day. She has quite a late 80s look about her as well, but she was not a complete unknown to audiences of that time. After her mid to late 80s fame and rise, she's just, she's not famous, but she's known. She looks familiar to people. And I think she's quite active on the convention scene, like a lot of actors from all of these Friday the 13th movies. You can meet them and they embrace their past in these movies. And Carrie Kiser is in this movie as Dr. Cruz. He is Tina Shepard's psychiatrist who took her to a cabin on Crystal Lake. How people are still coming to Crystal Lake and staying on the lake. I know we didn't have internet back then, but we knew things that happened. You just did. You listened to the news, you read things. There was lore, there were urban legends. We all still found out about things. So the fact that people are still coming and staying on Crystal Lake just baffles me at this point. Dozens of people have been murdered in the last 10 years at this lake. Terry Kiser will be familiar to most people as Bernie from The Weekend at Bernie's movies. Tina's mother, Mrs. Shepard, is played by Susan Blue, who might not be familiar, but a lot of us have heard her voice. She is a noted voice actress, and my dad used to know her in the 60s and early 70s. And then the rest of the cast is filled out with the ragtag bunch of teenagers, young adults coming to a cabin for the weekend, and basically most of them just get murdered. There is Kevin Spirtas in this movie who plays the love interest to Tina Shepard, who gets to survive with her at the end. And this one is still filmed in the South. It is not in Georgia, though. This time it's filmed in Alabama, changing the location up. And obviously, when you look at it, it's obviously not the original Crystal Lake. And this one was still filmed on the $2.5–3 million budget, and still, like the last one, makes under $20 million at the box office. And yes, these last three movies, we lean into Jason being sort of this supernatural being. He's being conjured up again by, this time, telekinesis, bringing him back to life. And I don't know what to tell you. And you would think of how they set this up as like Carrie versus Jason, and Carrie wins in the end. The character of Tina, or Lar Park-Lincoln, would be in the next movie, but it is not carried on. It's like they just forget about what happened in this movie, harkening into the next one without really talking about it. The only thing is Jason is left at the bottom of Crystal Lake again, and they never really talk about anything that happened in this movie. This is also the last Friday the 13th movie where they show anything from past movies at the beginning. And this one is also heavily censored again. During the 80s, there was a lot of pushback because these slasher films were very popular, but the MPAA, since all of the pushback, made it less and less likely for them to show blood and gore. So yet again, you have death scenes being like pulled and made less gory. It seems like all the kills are cut short again, much like some of the other films that face this backlash. And this is the first film where the score by Harry Manfredini is still used and he is given credit, but they start moving away from the score, which I think is a mistake. One of the iconic things about Friday the 13th movies is the score, but they start moving away from that and have it reworked. So although he is still credited, Fred Moulin is also credited as the composer because he kind of reworks the score and the sound. And the score from the original Friday the 13th in these final two films is less important than the previous ones. And because of the popularity of things like Terminator and the action movies of the time, you have Jason not only taking on a supernatural edge, but this larger than life indestructible edge. Some people, besides it, being called Jason versus Carrie, it's also been known as Carrie versus Terminator because of the portrayal of Jason in this movie as an even more indestructible being than in the previous movies. hard to kill. Yeah, that's the 7th Friday the 13th movie. Not a great one. It's there. It's fun to watch in the background. It's not as bad as the 8th one. But yeah, so I'm almost to the end. And like I said before, I'm just now doing the 8 Paramount Picture ones. A lot of people call this the 8 classic Jason movies, the 8 real Jason movies. So that's what I'm doing. So next week on Halloween, I will have Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. My name is Stacia, and I just like to talk about movies. This is my little corner of the internet. If you like this, please subscribe to my channel and also leave a comment. I like to know what you think. What is your favorite Jason movie? How do you rank each one of them in your lineup? I like to know. And it's okay for us to disagree on the ones we like and don't like. Like, for instance, I don't like the second one, and a lot of people do. But again, my name is Stacia. See you next time. Bye.